So good infrastructure is there for industries and business there. And they have a huge market. I mean, when we talk about the market, it's not Ras Al Khaimah. We're talking about a 300 million population that is well-to-do population in the Middle East. And as you know that the per capita GDP in the GCC region is very high, so you can actually cater to that. And also, in 3 hours flying radius, you also touch India. So you're talking about a 1.8 million population, which also cater to the North Africa as well. So it's a huge population, it's a good market. And as you know that the Middle East is predominantly oil exporting nation and dependent on a lot of imports. So today, Ras Al Khaimah is actually helping the government as well as the industries to actually set up industries there so that to substitute these imports. Now, Al Ghair Industrial Park, we have free zone as well as non-free zone. Almost 40% of the land has been leased out. This was actually started promoting a year and a half, so this is a good sign. Over 300 companies are there existing here. Very large companies are already there. And we have actually identified certain opportunities that is available in this area, so which is already mentioned here. And to talk about the Rakia, our aim is to actually to make any investment successful there. We're not in the business of just attracting companies there or investments there. Our aim is to make sure that the investments that is flowing to Ras Al Khaimah become successful. This is the only way that we can measure our own success. In a short period of time, we have attracted over 7,000 companies, of which onshore is 3,000 odd companies, offshore is again 3,000 companies. Attracted over $3 billion US from across the world in various sectors. And if you look at where the investments have come from, majority of the investments have actually come from India, which is 27%, and Europe is 19%. If you look at Europe, 19%, it's very interesting to see almost 90% of these investments have come from 6 countries in Europe. So that's a very interesting information that we have actually seen from our database. And that's basically the industrialized countries in Europe. So that's a very clean indication that European market, European industries are actually looking in the Middle East, and we are very successful in terms of attracting these industries out there. Then the Middle East market contributes nearly 90% of our investments. UAE, local companies 16%, Asia and Southeast Asia 9%, others 5%. Before I end this presentation, I'd just like to give you a small brief on the number of companies that has actually come there. As I mentioned, we have over 3,900 companies, of which almost 20% is from the industrial sector, which gives you an idea. In a very short period of time, we have attracted a large number of companies. But this is just a list of small number of companies that I've just put it across there. If you look at these from various countries abroad, from the globe has actually come in there. And if you see it from major companies like Mahindra, which is actually set up a bulletproofing vehicle which will supply their products to the GCC and to Afghanistan market. Then of course we have Ashok Leyland, which is the only truck and bus assembly plant in the GCC, which is actually located in Ras Al Khaimah. Of course from Europe we have Cluny, we have Vehicle Paints from France, we have Postco, which is from South Korea, and of course there are so many industries that is there. So this is just to give you an idea of the kind of mix that we have. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I don't like to take much of my time, so if there is any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Just a couple of slides back, you were highlighting some of the licensing patterns in the country patterns. The fact that a significant part of those licensing patterns are coming from industrial companies in Europe. In your presentation, you talked about you didn't quite touch upon sort of the logistics, the transportation benefits as to why industrial countries choose Ras Al Khaimah. So I think it'd be helpful to show your linkage through your logistics network, etc., whether it's air or sea or freight or whatever, and why Ras Al Khaimah is an attractive environment from a logistics perspective.
Thank you. Good that you got my attention. In fact, if you see Ras Al Khaimah, the location of Ras Al Khaimah, we are the first port of entry to the Middle East from the Strait of Hormuz. We are the first port of entry. And of course, Ras Al Khaimah being part of UAE, and we have Fujairah port, which is actually the port of entry to the Indian Ocean as well. Now, when we develop industries, of course, the logistics is very important. Transportation is very important. Now, we have a port which is the largest bulk handling port in the Middle East itself. So if you see most of the vehicles that is actually imported to the country is actually coming through Ras Al Khaimah port, which is not as busy as Jebel Ali port in Dubai. And again, our industrial land is well located. Actually, it's 35 to 40 kilometers away from the major ports, from Fujairah, from Ras Al Khaimah, Sharjah. Then, of course, Jebel Ali is just 50 to 60 kilometers away from there. And in terms of the port facilities, of course, we also have container facilities, so there are a lot of container movements from there. And the major advantage is, we are actually halfway between Europe and Asia. So, and again, it is, the documentation. Normally a ship comes in the morning and actually the stuffing, the container is all stuck in the ship. By afternoon, by evening, the ship actually sails. So it's a very minimum documentation that is also adopted by the port. So that way, yes, of course, we have good facilities there. And again, transportation costs, as you know, it's much lower if you compare with any other place. If you look at the oil prices, it's much lower here. And of course, in terms of the location-wise, we are very well located. So that way, there is a big advantage.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Alex from the audience? Then I'll ask one more. Oh yes, great. Okay, I got you fast.
Alex, thank you. My name is Sultan Darwish. I'm Director of Trade Negotiation for Ministry of Foreign Trade. It's really wonderful what I'm seeing here. Just I want to ask about the future. I've noticed that you're concentrating in India and Europe, but still we need to do a better job for China, for America. We talk about the United States. I think there is a potential, or there is an opportunity that there we can utilize. The second thing I want just to clarify, or sorry, to add one more thing regarding the revenues for UAE. For the fuel, it's only one state, which Abu Dhabi get revenues from oil. The others, like Dubai, Sharjah, they're concentrating in industries and concentrating in tourism. 2010 statistic for Dubai that the revenues for Dubai for the GDP 67% comes out of.
To start with, so the first part of Sultan's question, these are part of the success stories, and you're being a great part of that. But then there's China, which is very, very formidable, and then there's the U.S. and we have some representatives that have been at the conference from Latin America, etc. So perhaps you could talk about your growth strategy and your outreach to countries and markets that, as yet, don't quite see the benefit of Ras Al Khaimah.
Oh yes, I think it's a good point that you actually raised. Actually, yeah, we're not just focused on India or Europe. Actually, we are looking at US also. Very recently, we visited Detroit. We were actually addressing the associations of the automobile components and also other industries there in Detroit. And of course, we had various meetings in New York as well. When we talk about China, and we are open. I mean, this is an open country, as very rightly said. It's it's a very open country. They actually encourage investments into the region, and people like to come here. It's a very excellent place to live in UAE, especially. I've been living in this country for 14 years, and I'm an expatriate myself, and this is my second home. And I think I enjoy living in this country than the country that I come from, which is India. Because it's excellent. I mean, the environment is good. First of all, the government, let me tell you, if you go to deal with the government, they are really willing to help you. Similarly, it is much more easier and very friendly. Now, as far as the investment, requirements or investment strategy that Rakia has adopted, we are not restricted to any specific countries. We are actually open to the whole world itself. Now, limitations in our resources that really start from going to certain countries. Now, China, we know that it is actually, it's actually attracting a lot of, companies into China. And as I said, our resources doesn't really permit to go and actually go into the Chinese market, but we are open to those Chinese companies who are actually coming into UAE. We are in touch with the Chinese market. We are actually in touch with the Chamber of Commerce and things like that in China. So we are actually open. So we are open to any investments that is coming to the country.
That's clearly a classical issue with how do you service the world. And in a previous panel, the first day, actually it was pre-conference, we talked about the Web 2.0 and the role that promotion agencies and governments can play with regards to the internet and using social networks and using sort of technology to get the word out in a much more cost-effective way. Where is there a marketing and IT sort of technologically oriented strategy, so although you may not be able to put a team on the ground to cover all of China, what kinds of things are you doing perhaps with new media that will allow you still to spread the word?
I think what we believe, what is very important for any investment decision is, first of all, information. Now, this information, we have made it very transparent. Of course, the medias that we adopted is, internet is an important media. Our internet, in fact, our website that we have created is very user-friendly. And also, we are working with certain agencies to actually promote our website so that the information in the website can be available to any investors before they make a decision. And again, transparency is important. We need to put the information, what is required for investors to take a decision. Not all the time we put very colorful pictures and things like that, but it's also important to explain how the business works here and the rules and the regulations. So all these are there. That's very transparent. And of course, the other media is, we normally adopt print media because a lot of interest is actually coming from European market today, looking at how Ras Al Khaimah is going in or attracting investments. In a lot of European media is also coming to us, and of course that is another area that we are also covering. So these are the two areas that we are looking at. And then apart from that, we are also attending many conferences and exhibitions to explain the advantages of going and investing in this country, especially in Ras Al Khaimah. So that way I think we are doing a good job, and we are spreading the information to the investors.
There's a question in the back. I'll let you keep the mic, and we have another gentleman here to my left.
Thank you. I am Dr. Abdelhamid Radwan from the Ministry of Foreign Trade. Maybe I'm coming late, but I asked my question. First, the presentation is very good, it's very nice, but I want to ask about that is the number of companies is over 7,000. Yes? Now, what about the value added for these companies related to GDP for the Ras Al Khaimah, related to foreign trade? What's the contribution of these companies to foreign trade for Ras Al Khaimah? What is about employment? There are many criteria which we wanted to know about this to make a good feasibility study about these companies. As you know, that is number of companies is not the main criteria. But I think when I want to do a study about China, it is separate data about what is the contribution of this FDI for the foreign trade. And I think it's more than 60%. So it's very important if you give us the number of companies. This is another information about what is the value added. Thank you.
You rightly pointed out we have over 7,000 companies, of which 20% of them are in the industrial sector. Now, let me put it this way. As a government authority, our role is to help the companies who's actually deciding to come into this part of the world. Now, let me tell you some of the companies that is actually coming to this region or to Ras Al Khaimah. They don't come because they wanted to just come here or they have a lot of money. No. They're actually, they know what the market is. Now they're actually looking at various countries before even they come to UAE. They're looking at Saudi Arabia, they're looking at Qatar and UAE, they're looking at Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah. And of course, they make their own feasibility studies and they see that way they can be more profitable. So these companies actually come in after doing these kind of due diligence. So it's not that a company just comes in, walks in because, okay, there is some sort of environment that's been created by our Investment Authority which is conducive, so we will try. No, these companies are actually coming after doing proper due diligence. Now, in terms of the FDI flow. I mean, as I've actually shown in my slide, UAE is one of the top in the GCC country. And as I also explained why it is the top is because of the political stability. It's, doing business is much easier here, and things like that. So, and these are the general things which normally most of the businesses or investors are aware of.
Excuse me, I am not asked about the point of view as an investor. Asked about the.
Can you use the mic, please? Sorry, I can hear you.
Country. What is the value added for the hosting country? When I say the feasibility study for the FDI, I'm not related to the investor. I ask the feasibility study for the hosting country, not to.
Let me make sure that for those who couldn't hear, Doctor, I think I heard your question. Is, often companies come into countries and they seem to get more out of the country than the country gets out of them. And I think that this is sort of the essence of where the questionnaire is coming from, is the value added that these countries bring to the country from a sustainability perspective. I think that's part of it.
Well, what I can answer to that is, well, the valuation these companies that brings to. Are you talking about the valuation that is created in Ras Al Khaimah, or what are you talking about?
My question is very simple and clear. What is the benefit for the hosting country from the FDI?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Now it's much more clear. Well, it's the most important benefit for the hosting country itself is basically the revenue itself. As I mentioned about, our revenue actually comes from these kind of services that we offer to these companies. So the advantage is the revenue. Then, of course, creating employment. That's very important. I mean, in the region, it's an open economy and it's an open labor market. The employment is created in the UAE national level, which is also created at the GCC level. And as you know that there are a lot of people who are actually come in and find their jobs here. So we're creating, local population as well. So I think these are the two things which I can actually highlight to you.
There's a gentleman to my left.
My name is Waqar Yusuf. I'm from Pakistan. I want to know what is the size of manufacturing activity in Ras Al Khaimah, the percentage vis-a-vis UAE overall. Number two, what are the electricity rates there? And number three, how is the availability of electricity? Is it ensured?
Well, the manufacturing contribution to the GDP of Ras Al Khaimah is 22%. Now, in terms of, this is our policy that we wanted to actually attract manufacturing industries or industries that will create sustainable economy. So that's the whole purpose of bringing the industries out there. And we know that other, related industries also actually booms if industries are coming in, because there is a requirement for housing, there will be a requirement for schooling because of the population growth as well. So that's the main purpose. So that's why we see that 22% is the contribution to the GDP. Now, answering to the power availability, of course, power is a major factor for any industry. What we have done, as I mentioned, our resources that we have actually utilizing in creating these infrastructure. Now, we have created a 84 megawatt of power plant, which is actually in the industrial park itself. That is only supplying to the industry. We are not actually supplying to the residential area. That's not our area. So we are actually focusing on the industrial area. So currently we have 60 megawatt of power available in the power plant, in the industrial park. So there is ample power there. Now, in terms of the cost of power, the power cost is 45 fils per kVA. So that is in par with the federal government power rate. So we are in par with the federal government rates. And the power is actually independently coming from Rakia. We have put our own power plant. It's not actually coming from the federal government. So, but the rates are in par with the federal government.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Ras Al Khaimah. Thank you, audience. Next up, we'll have Angola, and we have the International Affairs Director, if he wants to prepare for the next presentation. While we're making that transition, I'll reveal to you a government study that I heard about just recently. For the past 3 years, an unnamed government had worked very hard and spent many tax dollars to find the approval ratings for unemployment. They concluded that 7% of the unemployment level is acceptable to 93% of the working population. We have two gentlemen that will be with us from Angola, Antonia Prata, is that correct? And once again, the Dr. Katan.
Domingos Eduardo. Okay, thank you. First of all, we'll see a short video regarding the business opportunity in Angola.
Where is Angola? Angola lies on the west coast of southern Africa and is bathed by the Atlantic Ocean. It covers an area of more than 1,200,000 square kilometers. The country is divided into 18 provinces, and its capital is the city of Luanda. It also shares a 4,000-kilometer border with Congo-Brazzaville, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Namibia. The highest geographical point is Mount Moko, standing at 2,620 meters high, situated in the central province of Luanda. Angola owns one of the greatest hydrological networks in the whole of Africa, and its main rivers are the Kwanza, Zaire, Nile, and Lubango. The main resources. Oil is still the main force of the Angolan economy, besides the production of diamonds, metals, agriculture, and cattle raising. In 2001, the oil production entered a new era with the exploration of deep water wells. With this, the country will increase its production to over 1 million barrels of oil per day. Nearly 100% of the country's oil production is carried out in high seas. To exploit this resource, Angola acquired technology from foreign countries in England, France, and the USA. Angola's hydroelectrical station in the province of Malange was built with Russian and Brazilian technology and has now begun producing energy. In future, it will be the center of a new energy source for the country.
Strategic sectors. Among the stronger segments of the Angolan economy, the oil sector still holds a highlighting place. Last year, Angola started using the technology of deep waters exploration through a sophisticated and huge floating unit termed FPSO Girasol, with an initial production of 200,000 barrels per day. The unit will allow the country to reach an unheard-of record of 1 million barrels a day. The mining activity also presented important progresses, having recorded a growth higher at 14% comparing to the past year. The civil construction and public works, the country has achieved expressive progresses that should gain major effect and intensity in the coming years. The rehabilitation of the country's infrastructures is the prime encouraging factor of this segment. Roads, bridges, schools, health centers, urban works could already be noticeable all over the provinces of the country. In 2002, agriculture had a great incentive, and with the increasing return of the rural population to their areas of origin, agriculture will keep on growing in the next few years. Angola has still a much more promising vocation for leisure tourism, beaches, mountains, deserts, rivers, and forests. The nature's diversity and its culture as well turn the country into a privileged touristic destination. It's a segment that should receive great investments at mid and long terms, creating jobs and new business opportunities. In order to resume its path towards development, the country will have to rebuild hospitals, schools, bridges, industries, in short, a great part of its infrastructures. Besides its own resources, Angola will need foreign investments in this process. The country's natural resources, the government's economic reforms, and the determination of the Angolan people show clearly that these investments will produce great results in the near future. This is what we're going to see next.